Nerdbox.
Sorrow dark fills the day. All the light has been shut away. Only doom lies ahead. Only gloom and the tears we'll shed. Here they stepped, laughed and wept, danced and crept, prayed and slept.
And if you have any questions for Coley, I will try to answer as him.
Yay. Well, Coley can help me to do the introduction and welcome here. So,
I'd be delighted.
hey, fiends. Thanks for joining me on DonnaJean's Coffee House of Horror. And I am here with Glenn Payne, Casey Dillard, and Coley's.
I will be playing the role of Coley Bryant today, who played the role of Seth in Killer Concept.
All right.
Hello.
So we basically have the entire cast with the 2.5 of you.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
This is actually Coley. He just looks very different on screen. That's how talented he is.
Yeah.
It was the makeup.
Thank you.
Wow.
Now everybody's gonna be like, when's the puppet showing up in the movie? I don't get it.
Now, the three of you.
Yeah, be
Three
sure
of
that you
you.
guys watch it till the puppet shows up. That's important.
Exactly. Now you've worked together a number of times. I have Coley's representation face, right?
Yes.
You worked on Driven together, which was an amazing, wonderful film.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now you're back with Killer Concept. You explain it as a darkly comedic thriller. And I watched it today, and it is. And it is all that. It's
Good.
everything that personally that I really, really love, the horror comedy thing. And it was frightening and it was funny. And you guys are amazing. You were able to do that. Would you want to give us a little synopsis of the story? Again, like spoiler free.
Sure. Casey, do you want to handle that one?
Sure. It's the story of three people with filmmaking aspirations who are working together to cover a series of real life murders that took place in their town. And then it turns out that one of them is actually a lot closer to the story than the other two think. They actually have been committing the murders. I think that happens early enough on that that's not a spoiler.
I agree.
And it's seeing the story influence him and him influence the story back and forth, and tangling up point of view characters and how much perspective changes how you see yourself, I guess.
One of the things I really liked about it, I liked many things about it. One of the many things was it really was a very intelligent film because it came from a couple of different directions. And I think you could kind of try to look at each character and try to see where they were coming from versus where they thought they were coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
they making the point that they think they're making?
Well, that's great to hear too. That's
Yeah.
good. This is our first interview, unless I'm losing my mind, Casey. Right?
That's entirely possible, but for the time being, I'm willing to. You're the first one that's gotten a puppet. How about that? Yeah, I think
I
you're
am
our
delighted.
first official killer concept.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
All right.
exciting to get you. These are the first questions we have had from anyone. So yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Glenn, I'm going to hit you up then.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your character? Vaguely.
Yeah, sure. So my character's name is Mark, and he's trying to fit in with this group, and he doesn't often find people that he jives with well. So he's balancing getting to know them and letting them get to know him to whatever extent he can. Wow, Casey, we really didn't talk about what we were going to say and not say. I don't know. What do we?
Yeah, I don't think we discussed it much.
We didn't. I didn't. Having considered this issue. Well, we'll say this: it was really interesting playing the character while directing, because everybody that's on screen is also doing a number of other jobs. Because, like we may have mentioned already, we had primarily a cast and crew of 5 total people. So if 3 of us were on screen, and then we had 2 other crew members, 1 on camera, 1 on sound. Anyway, so we're all doing multiple jobs. So it was a nice challenge for everybody. And for me, you know, directing and acting and hopping in there and doing this or that while trying to get the shots how you want them was very, very raw and a nice challenge to jump into artistically.
Make no mistake, Glenn did more work than anyone else on the movie, but we all at some point in time had to jump into like director, lighting, blocking, whatever it happened to be. So it was a very, very hands-on process. And like, not just us, the crew was in on it too. Like they would tell you sometimes, hey, it looked really weird the way that you just walked into this scene. We can still see you when you get to this doorway. So I don't know. I feel much closer to everyone that was involved in making this movie than I did before we started, which isn't to say that like we were super distant before or anything, but it was like, man, we really had to workshop everything together.
Well, because every crew member is in the movie as well as an actor at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So since you've seen it, the guy in the flower, well, they're both in the flower shop actually. The one that Casey's character speaks to, the younger guy, that was Caleb, who ran sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the background, you'll see James Puckett, who was our cinematographer. so I was running the camera.
You were filming the camera that day, or
Yeah.
filming the
Okay,
camera,
I
running
have
the
to tell
camera.
you
that
guys, my husband is standing behind my computer going like this. Did you hear anything?
I
I
did hear
saw-
something.
I was
I
trying
saw
so
you
hard
getting
not to look at
tickled.
him.
I thought it was the puppet, not gonna lie. And I was like really impressed and a little concerned for a second. I was like, that's a deep voice.
I wouldn't disrupt it.
I knew I was going to start laughing. It's like, I can't have you think I'm laughing at what you're saying.
No, that's okay. It's okay. So those guys are all in the movie too, which was fun. So it was a nice battle. There's so many things we could talk about with just the way we filmed this movie.
Yeah.
But I'll let you ask the
Feel
question.
free to talk about whatever you'd like to talk about the way it was filmed, because it's pretty fascinating. I know a lot of filmmakers and actors have been struggling through COVID to try to pull things off. And I think some have and some have not. And so really, if you can share any of the idiosyncrasies or ways that this was done, that would be awesome, because it's different, it's new.
Yeah, well, it's very experimental for me and for us, I think, in a lot of ways, because so we had this time because of COVID. We had this amount of time where we were either fully free or partially. And we're like,
I was temporarily out of work.
Exactly. So we could, we should make something. And then we kicked around several ideas and, developed some and then just sort of trashed them because we didn't go that route. and so
which is a shame because like we actually had some very interesting ideas. They just didn't quite work, some of them. And by the very nature of how we were going to make this movie, we didn't have time to workshop them better. So
right.
Well, you know, it's just one of those things that can go on the back burner to be worked on in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
So
True.
because like I liked your golem thing and my influencer thing. Like those are both things that we could revisit, but this one just felt more doable.
And like, excuse me, Casey mentioned most of our people were already sort of in our bubbles, you know, like COVID wise. So we dove into it. So we didn't have a full script though. Casey didn't write an actual, neither one of us wrote an actual script. She came up with a story and the outline.
We wrote an overall story outline, like a more detailed than I think we normally would, but a story outline. And then we would kind of break down the conversations that needed to happen in each scene. And then we would just sort of improvise them until we were like, okay, I like this line. I like this line. So the scenes you watch, I guess I'd say they were loosely scripted, but no, we did not write dialogue for the movie, except for, I guess, the scene with me and Caleb.
Just Caleb, yeah.
But that was just because we were just moving him around so rapidly.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's just script it because that would be easier. It would be less demanding to him.
Which is how, unless I'm mistaken, that's how SNL writes their skits, right? Don't they just improvise?
Yeah.
So at least they used to do anyway. And then kind of, that was pretty good. Then they kind of develop it from there. But which I would not recommend people do ever, by the way. I mean, go for it. Give it a shot. Do whatever you want to do to create. But
well, just know that like there's a chance that one of you will come out looking less good. Like whoever has to film this has to be the person that's being filmed first is probably going to come across a little clunkier than the rest because you haven't done it as many times. And
luckily, Casey and I have done improv for many years. So Coley, though, jumped in like a trooper. Coley's representative is here, actually. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yes. I was first asked to play an improv game, and it was horrifying. I did not want to do it. But then when we just did a scene, it went fine.
Good.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you, Coley's representative.
Yeah, we did actually try and do like a warm-up improv game with Coley, and I think he was about to bail on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, hey, you know what? Maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe we just need to do exactly what we're asking him to do for this movie. And it was a rhyming game in his defense.
Yeah, it wasn't actually.
I didn't do well with rhymes.
Well, it seems as though you were all of a like mind about the story, but it had to be really fun though to be able to come out and be doing kind of some improv as things came and playing off of each other's characters as well as off each other, just kind of knowing each other's personalities for real. So that had to be, which I can see some people that I know trying to pull that off. That probably would,
you had to be so careful.
Yeah, that's the thing about improv, like for me and with when I'm writing characters that I would like to play at some point. It's hard sometimes not to make them more like yourself and relate them to you more. And a script can definitely help you avoid that.
Right.
Which fortunately, Coley, I think the Seth character is probably about as far from his actual personality as he could have possibly been. So maybe there was less of a risk of that with him, but like, because he's so laid back and non-egotistical.
There might have been a concern then about him not being interacting enough as his
right. But character. I mean, I thought he did an amazing job. But then, like I said, like with me and Glenn, and especially in the case of Glenn, because the whole point of Mark is that he's trying to play a normal man, sort of. and so I'm sure it was hard for you not to default to a lot of your own mannerisms and
Yeah, especially if he's hiding something, in a scene. Yeah, because you're
But you
acting.
pulled off so well when he would get upset. When they were discussing the characteristics of the killer,
Yeah.
and you just saw it was all like in his eyes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Yeah.
I think Glenn's good at doing a lot of like internalized acting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll take it.
So you all walked away with not only closer relationships with each other, but also if you went on set not knowing how to use the lights, you walked away learning how to use the lights.
Yeah,
so you could add to your resume, right?
Well,
yeah, I feel like everybody built on their tertiary skill sets.
And so for any other filmmakers that might be watching, or like any horror film lovers, whose dog? Those are your dogs, Casey, right? Is that my
Yeah,
one?
they are.
Yeah. Horror fans usually probably know a lot about movies that are made on a small budget, whether you go back to Halloween or whatever. So this one, on the heels of Driven was the biggest movie we had made, like logistically and other things. And we had Richard Darrell in that one, and we dealt with the unions and all those things. And so this one was so different in that it was just like as guerrilla filmmaking style as you could possibly get. Like we didn't.
It's a lot closer to what we were doing like 11 years ago.
Yeah. So like it's like a $900 movie, not counting all the energy and sweat equity involved.
Yeah.
That is amazing in and of itself. Just that number is amazing. And I'm not involved with any of the fundraising or any of that with indie filmmakers, but from what I've heard them talk about, it would be so easy to just spend so much more than that.
Oh yeah.
Jean Cocteau said that film wouldn't truly be an art form until the ingredients could be obtained as cheaply as ink and paper, and like there's something to that.
Yeah,
there's probably some amazing storytellers that we're never ever going to hear from because they're locked out financially. Because we made this movie extremely cheaply, but it's only because we already owned enough gear and things like that to do it. So
absolutely, and have made 30 other movies.
Yeah.
If we made this movie, when I was on my third movie, it wouldn't work.
Right.
I wouldn't have any idea what I was doing.
Well, and like that's one thing about I didn't treat it like an experiment as such, but I did sort of think of it as a big experiment. And if one of the results is that anybody who watches it, and even if they say this from the point of view of absolutely hating it, that they're like, I could make something like that for $900. Good.
Do it.
Please do.
Yeah.
Like make your movie, get started.
Yeah.
Because making the first one is going to be the hardest part. And if knowing that you can do so for less money than you think helps somebody make that first step, it's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. It is. Now, this is going to become available on May 21st on Amazon, correct?
Correct.
And so
and probably other platforms.
Oh yeah, Amazon's just the first one. It'll be on everything else as well following that.
Great. That was gonna be my follow-up asking.
It'll be available. I forget the actual breakdown, but as far as when it hits which one, but like Google Play and iTunes, and at some point Tubi and all that stuff. It'll start on Amazon, just general Amazon Video first, and then kind of go from there. But
Amazon's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It's accessible,
Yeah, and they're quick.
It is.
They're quick. We fast tracked this one in a lot of ways. So they'll get it up pretty fast. So that's exciting to get it out there.
Okay, so kind of talking about the improvising and the characters and all that. Okay, so I became a fan of Stag Wrestle Paranormal after we did the Driven interview.
Yay.
And I keep messaging Glenn and saying, when's there going to be another season? But one of the things I noticed is that, Casey, your character always seems to be the most grounded of the crew.
Well,
so is that
that's a little bit of a failure of storytelling in my part in Stag Wrestle, because Penny is kind of a wreck. I think that becomes a lot clearer in the next episode that we were going to film before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's probably the most pragmatic. I will agree with that. I think it's the fact that I have a low voice and a harsh face, and my statements don't usually go up on the end. I think it makes me a good fit for very grounding characters.
Well, also
Well,
when you go ahead. Sorry, DonnaJean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting because she also, while she seems to be the most grounded, she's usually involved with a lot of in situations that are not. So,
yeah, which is essentially her thing. Like, I think that she can look at other people and say, oh, they're a mess and here's what they need to do to fix that. But then if people were like, you're a mess, she'd just be like, what do you mean? I'm in a long-term relationship. I've got a house, everything's fine. But if you ask her, like, are you sad all the time? She'd be like, yeah, isn't everyone?
Exactly.
But also when you pair her next to like the Colonel,
right,
or Enzo, or even Larry
Bernice.
coming on the heels of his journey or whatever, and Bernice. Yeah. She probably seems a lot more stable.
A core crew that works together and works together so well. So it's understandable that that would be kind of what you would stick with when you go into the new project. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for anybody that has seen Stag Wrestle, Coley, who's in Killer Concept with us, is one of the main characters. He is Taylor in Stag Wrestle. Just a fun little insight there. Did you have anything you wanted to say there? Coley's representative.
I think Taylor is the closest character to my actual personality. Coley's just like Taylor. It's official.
But he's smarter than Taylor, I think. Taylor kind of a oh my.
Nah,
And
he's definitely smarter than Taylor.
Yeah.
Those of you who haven't seen Stag Wrestle Paranormal, check it out. I saw it on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I think that's the only place it's available.
Yeah,
Okay.
4 episodes.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's 4 episodes up. There's
There should have been 2 more.
that are going to be filmed at some point. Just
at this point, if there was no COVID, season 1 might be complete. I don't know. Who knows? It doesn't really matter.
yeah, just don't go to the comments and be like, everybody's hair is different in every episode. We know.
There are huge gaps in between episodes.
We tried to avoid it. Trust me.
Do you have anything? I know that this is just coming out and that's exciting. Do you have anything else that you've been thinking about working on?
Boy, definitely. I've been working on a script that Casey has helped on as well some. And
Minimally.
And she's working on something as well, different. I will say mine is a horror comedy, or even horror adventure, if you will. I don't know. Like we were talking about earlier, I really love horror comedies, and especially I think the pandemic has really solidified my need for comedy and like levity. So when I watch things that are really dramatic, even if they're excellent, I just having trouble getting through them, you know? So I'm really, really, really enjoying making things that are at least somewhat comedic, you know, like Killer Concept, we hope is funny to some degree, but it's not as
well, and I mean, you have to edit them and everything else. You have to sit down with those for like weeks at a time.
Or months.
So you need to be able to enjoy watching it.
It's true. That is
Well,
very
it was funny. Well, it had the horror, and I agree, actually. In a crazy kind of a way, I felt watching it like one of my favorite movies is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Oh yeah.
And I've
I just
interviewed
watched that
Nathan,
this past year.
that is one of my favorite films. And I've actually done a couple of interviews with Nathan and one with the whole crew. We did a reunion, and
I thought Robert Englund was so good in that movie that like
he
I
was.
wish he had been in it more.
I actually thought all of the like even Kane Hodder was in the beginning
Hmm.
going into a house, and they talk
Yeah.
they talk all about, and I have that's like if I'm sick or upset or something, that's like one of my feel good movies. I put that on.
Oh yeah, that movie was.
It was
I-
fun.
But this one, Killer Concept, reminded me of how I feel watching that.
Oh,
So
good.
that's like the biggest thing I can say about it.
That's
The
great.
biggest
No, that's
compliment.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah. And that movie was sort of. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I right in saying that it was ahead of its time comedically?
It
Yeah.
was. It
Yeah.
was. And it was an indie film as well.
Yeah.
In fact,
Well,
there's still
I
people
mean,
that want there to
and I
be
mean, I know I commented
another-
on
Yeah.
Robert Englund, but everybody in that was really good. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Like
And
the crew
actually-
and the filmmaker gal, like all of them were really good. I know it had a lot of icons in it, but
Yeah. Well, the main
Oh.
guy was. I don't know if I saw him in anything else after that because I thought he did really well. He was very committed to that role.
Yeah, actually, Nathan had, if he's watching this, I know he's probably going to laugh, but he actually became a drama teacher for a time. But he also, I back and forth. I think they still toy with the idea of maybe yes, maybe no, another doing another one.
Oh,
having a
yeah.
sequel.
Yeah. That's cool. I'd watch it. I've been thinking a lot lately too about horror and comedy because I love Edgar Wright's
My
movies like Dawn
brother-in-law.
of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. But when it comes to like what I want in a horror film or thriller or whatever, it's like I think I really enjoy them when they're an adventure. Like I'm more about thrills than being unsettled. Like I'm not really looking to be unsettled by something. I want it to be thrilling, even if it's scary or whatever. Like I want it to feel like an adventure, even if it's dark and really doesn't end well for certain people. It still feels like an adventure or a ride, sort of, as opposed to being tortured or unsettled.
I think I think a good question to ask myself a lot is like if I took out the horror element, would I want to watch a movie with these characters in this setting? Like is it fun for me to sit through to some extent, whether I'm empathizing or laughing at or whatever it happens to be? And I think that's the key in horror and in comedy is that like you can't hope that good jokes will carry a bad story or hope that good scares.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that's what I'm discovering about like the ones that I seek out and enjoy myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you get to know the characters. You get
Right.
to like the characters,
Mhm.
even if they're a bit mad,
Right.
and
Yeah.
kind of be like, oh no, don't do that. But I think for me, that's a lot of what makes a movie appealing to me is
Right.
you get to know the characters.
Yeah.
And
And
those
you
are
guys pulled that off really well with this.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's because I'm curious to see what people say about Killer Concept. One thing that always makes me really happy is that people really seem to like Roger and Emerson in Driven, or like the characters in Stag Wrestle, or at least they dislike the ones that they're supposed to. And so that always makes me really happy to hear. I'm glad that you felt that way.
Yeah, very much so. And we obviously hope those things come across, so that's good. That's good.
Well, I think it's especially says a lot about all of the acting, because it wasn't a long movie. So it's not like it wasn't a Stephen King book of descriptions, and I say that loving Stephen King,
Yeah.
but his books, he spends a lot of time, and
They're
you really
long, yeah.
it was just who they were
Mhm.
was just like on the face. It wasn't like, and in a way that was very good, spoiler free, that you did know early on who was the killer,
Mhm.
because it allowed you to kind of see what was behind that look in their eyes, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, and hopefully
Yeah.
that's
Which,
enjoyable.
like,
for people.
I love a good mystery and trying to figure out who did it. You know, I'm not saying this is the right way, but you know, like in an episode of Columbo, you know, within the first scene who the killer is, but now you get to see how they react to all of these scenarios that are being thrown at them. And so that's kind of more the way that we were approaching this one.
And we joke.
one more thing,
Mhm.
Columbo.
Oh yeah. We joke about with this movie, so you find out pretty early on who it is. But we joke about the fact that if you did not know that, just hypothetically, who would you think that it is, and how many people in the story seem just crazy enough to
Well, like the flower shop guy, mainly.
yeah, Caleb in the flower shop. I was like, that's the guy I would pick to be the killer.
Which, like, I did script that character a little bit big, but he definitely ran with it. He was like, this guy's going to be pretty intense. And
yeah. Well,
I enjoyed it.
They've all got with their thing. Like Seth, they're all intense. Seth, Holly, Mark, they've all got things going on. Hopefully people watch it and they think, well, I wonder if that person is killing people too. I'd be okay with that.
Well, that would be a new film in the future about the meeting of the killers or something.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I think at the risk of running too long, unless there's anything else that you would like to.
Nope. If people want to check out our social media, it's at Killer Concept 1 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we hope people can find it and watch it whenever they happen to watch this video. We may be in different places by then. And check out Driven and Stag Wrestle too. If you want.
yeah, if you want to see if our movie is even anything that you might like, you can definitely check out our previous work. So,
And just to throw out, in this very weird world of COVID, and I know movie theaters are open again, but not the way they used to be. So leave positive input, leave a review on Amazon and IMDb, and tell them you want more Stag Wrestle.
the only people that don't seem to want more Stag Wrestle are any of the networks that we've tried to sell it to. So, like,
we've tried so hard.
Yeah, that's part of the reason there's such a big gap between the first two episodes. Man, we shopped it hard, but more Stag Wrestle is coming. We promise.
Maybe I can see you back and we can do this again when there's some more Stag Wrestle coming.
Love it.
I would love it too.
Thank you for having us back this time.
Thank you so very much. It was truly, truly a pleasure. And we'll see you guys out at the movies.
Bye. Happy horror.